Hey guys, it's Sasha. The FIRE movement has become incredibly popular. FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. The idea is that you can follow a method that will let you save up enough money to be able to retire in your 40s or maybe even your 30s and never have to work a single day of your life again. Sounds great, right? Well, everyone on YouTube seems to be preaching the FIRE movement principles and it's becoming a really popular goal for younger people. And in this video, I will give you 5 very specific and very important reasons why I personally do not like the FIRE movement and why I don't follow it. For me, each one of these reasons is a deal breaker, and it shows how the whole financial independence retire early concept is pretty weak. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a huge proponent of financial independence. I have had my own business since the age of 28, and I'm now a content creator with full control of my time and schedule, and I am financially independent myself. In fact, I advocate financial independence. That is what this channel is pretty much really all about. But I don't subscribe to a fixed dogma. I don't think it makes sense to join a club with prescribed fixed rules. It is perfectly possible to strive for financial independence without following the FIRE movement mantra. I also know that the comments I'm going to get on this video are not going to be so positive, but it is not a black and white choice. It is not either you do FIRE or you be a corporate slave for 50 years. There is a lot of stuff in between. The world is far more nuanced than that. So let's start with the first issue, and this might be the biggest one. The FIRE movement only works for people who are already well off. It is easy to sit in an ivory tower and pat yourself on the back for saving 25% of your income, or maybe even 50% of your income into investments. It is easy to say that you can always downsize your costs, own a $10,000 car instead of a $40,000 car, or downsize from a 3-bedroom to a 2-bedroom apartment. But the problem is that the vast majority of people are not in that position. People on low incomes, people who don't live in a developed country, people who don't have those circumstances, people who don't have any hope of saving 25% of their income. You can demonize the people or say that they only have themselves to blame and that, you are on a low income and you can do it, therefore everyone can. But the fact is, the vast majority of these people live paycheck to paycheck. And it is not just because they're lazy. Many people are born into poor families in poor neighborhoods. They have circumstances that largely dictate how they are going to grow up and the sort of jobs they'll end up doing. A lot of people barely earn enough money to pay their bills and they survive paycheck to paycheck. Some of these people will borrow money to put food on the table for their children. They do not have the luxury of choosing how to spend their money. The electricity bill is non-negotiable, and it is easy to say that that person should maybe move to a cheaper city or maybe go live further out so that they don't have to pay as much. Things like that. But when you don't have any money, any security, when you are barely struggling to make ends meet, that just isn't a realistic option that people can take. There are many other considerations. These people may need to live close enough to where they work. Maybe they can't commute for 2 hours because they need to drop off and then pick up their kids from school. And the sad truth is that these are the people who the FIRE movement appeals most to. The person who is struggling to make ends meet dreams of not having financial struggles. These are the people who really want FIRE. These are the people who FIRE would theoretically help the most. They will spend money on a credit card to go and buy that course or watch endless videos on YouTube, but they actually have no chance of ever making it. And that's because the basic tenets of how they should get there, starting with saving large chunks of your income, just do not work. Now, the second point is one that most people in the FIRE community completely ignore, but I think is hugely important. If you decide you are going to do FIRE in your 20s, and then you're going to go and spend the next 10 to 20 years trying to achieve it, you are essentially trading your best years of life away for old age. FIRE principles will tell you that you need to live further away from the city to save on costs. You'll need to go out less when your friends are going out to town because, it's an unnecessary expense. You'll not go on that dream holiday that you've always wanted to go on because the cost will set your retirement date back by a year. But sure, you can go and enjoy backpacking around Australia or maybe camping around Europe when you're 65 instead. You will take on side hustles that will take you away from spending time with your family that otherwise you would never have have taken on. You will waste the best years of your life not doing things that young people should be doing, or maybe doing things that you really don't want to do, just so that you can then enjoy later years of your life more. And when you're old, looking back at your life, I am not sure that you'll feel as good about that choice as you think. Now, the next big problem with the FIRE movement is this obsessive focus on saving money and cutting costs instead of growing revenue. The majority of the advice and things that people talk about from everything that I've seen is about how you can save more money. How can you cut out unnecessary costs, reduce your spending? But the truth is, the most powerful way by far to become financially independent is not by living in a slightly smaller apartment or going on a cheaper holiday. The best way to become truly financially independent is by growing your revenues a lot. And I know that people talk about side hustles and things like that in the FIRE movement, potentially buying apartments so that they can earn passive income, all of these things, I am aware. But investing in your career, learning valuable skills, starting a business, these are the things that can make a huge difference. And these things don't really get talked about. Some of these might come at a cost. Starting up a business costs money. Money that you can't spend because it stops you making those monthly deposits to your savings account, which goes against the whole point of FIRE. Heck, sometimes you might need to take on debt in order to upgrade your skills, or take on debt to start up that business so you can earn more money. But I really don't like how little attention this point gets when people talk about FIRE. Now, let me talk about the 4% rule, because this is the rule that the FIRE community absolutely swears by, and unfortunately, it just doesn't stand up to scrutiny. The 4% rule says that when you retire, you can withdraw 4% of your investments per year to live on. So you need to make sure that 4% of your total investment portfolio is enough for you. And if you then withdraw that much on average per year, then your investments will grow over time. And that growth should ensure that you never run out of money, even accounting for market fluctuations. But here's the big problem with this. When you decide to do the retirement part of FIRE, you're doing something very different to regular ongoing investing. You're essentially making a one-off bet at a fixed point in time with a big load of money, rather than continuously investing money every single month, which is what a regular investor would do. Now, hear me out here. Sure, in the run-up to that point, you might be simply investing regularly like what I just described, but when you decide to go and actually start that 4% rule, here is what the big issue is. On average, that 4% rule may play out, but if you retire at the wrong part of the economic cycle, you have just ruined your entire 20-year plan. If you have worked hard to save $750,000 and you plan to live off $30,000 per year with that 4% rule, what happens if there is then a market crash immediately after you do it in the next year? You don't have a job or any income anymore, and a typical market crash will wipe out 40 to 50% of your investment pile, and all of your money is going to be in those investments because you're expecting that high yield. So you're left with just, let's say, $400,000 worth of investments, but you have to draw money out of that. You can't just let it sit there and wait for it to go back up. You still have bills to pay. You still have to fund your life. So what's the plan? Do you still take $30,000 out? And if the market crash lasts a few years, then your investments are going to go and get depleted very, very quickly. Or do you need to figure out how your family can live on just $15,000 instead? Remember that if a market crashes by 50%, it then has to go up not by 50%, but by 100% from that lower point to get back to the same level it was before the crash. And if you're drawing down what is effectively now 8% of your portfolio just to live on, your investments will never actually grow back. And here is the last point. The FIRE movement strategy sets a maximum cap on what you will ever be able to earn and how much money you will ever be able to have. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying everyone should strive to be insanely rich or anything like that, but the approach says that the maximum you will ever realistically have is that 4% number. There is zero potential upside here, realistically, but there is a huge amount of potential downside. And so you have this absolute cap and this kind of massive load of stuff underneath, which is where you are likely to end up. If the markets work against you, if you have an unexpected emergency cost or anything else that knocks you off the plan, that's it. Your whole strategy can be ruined. And you've been spending years working for it, building real, sustainable, long-term, robust, and growing revenue streams can achieve the same goals of financial independence. And that approach doesn't come with any limits. So that's my take. I actually find fire a really interesting concept. I just think the specifics of the commonly accepted approaches that I see a lot of people talk about are just not that good. Also, what happens if everyone in the world decides to do fire? That would make for one super bland and super boring society. If you found this video useful, I would really appreciate you smashing the like button so that I can get a bit of help to counter the diehard fire fans that I am sure are going to come in their masses to do the exact opposite. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you guys later.